Our analysis of the Vegas Golden Knights at the midway point of the season coming up today. Notable games, good and bad, a player review, and our assessment of the coaching staff so far.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. You don't look like an alien anymore. I don't know what was going on. He had a green film there. I got the fog. You are an alien guy.
People like the fog. People like talk to me too, and like they want me to mention like they like the fog. So I think it's funny.
It is funny, but it's not. It's natural. It's all natural. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. You can find us on Twitter at LockedOnVGK, at TDChrisG. That's him. I'm at Tony Dasco. Follow us and subscribe on our YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. And so let's talk about the midway point-ish of the season. Could have been precise and done it last week, but it's okay. It's time for our analysis of the VGK. And let's start off with notable games, good and bad. Good side first. I think the good would have to be the 9-game win streak, the 5 straight wins on the road. And to me, the trademark victories of the season were the revenge games, right? The Bruce Cassidy revenge tour, winning at Boston 4-3, and Jack Eichel in Buffalo.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you look at games that were, circled on the calendar for personal reasons, of course. Jack Eichel definitely revenge, even second time back, but definitely he's got some motivation. And Cassidy wanted to win that game, but it wasn't like the emotional stick it to the Bruins or anything like that. He had nothing but good things to say, obviously, about his time there. But when he was in Boston, catching up with people, dinners, family, friends, and everything. But certainly those are the games that were very excitable as far as the fan base goes. And, who didn't love watching Mark Stone chirp, send him home after that win in Buffalo. And of course, that prompted me to get my jersey that's not hanging up behind me right now that says send him home on the back. And, a couple fun games right there. For me, I'm looking at more of some of like the best like defining type games at home and maybe like 60-minute efforts. And Anaheim, October 28th, obviously. It's Anaheim, but still, they did everything they needed to do, jump out to a lead and just own that game beginning to end. That same week, they had a really good game against the Toronto Maple Leafs on the Monday prior. And then recently, the Pittsburgh Penguins game. Very notable games where they had pretty good 60-minute efforts. But then looking at the schedule, like looking at a lot of the other games, they beat Arizona 5-2 December 21st. It's a game that was kind of in the balance a little bit. Same thing on Thursday, November 17th. That was when I was tweeting that, hey, something just doesn't seem right with this team. So, it's been an up and down roller coaster, but more decent than bad, I think, Tony, so far.
Yeah. And to us, of course, VGK kind of separated themselves early, and now they've sort of coasted after that very quick start this season. The surprise has to be playing well on the road, not so well at about a 500 clip here at home.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big concern. Cassidy has had comments about playing at home. He's had comments about coming back from road trips. He's had comments about being home for the holidays and things like that. Well, okay, here's a good example. Right now, we've been home since Saturday. Our next home game is Thursday. Are the VGK going to be distracted because they're with their families? Like, is that the excuse, the narrative that Cassidy is preaching about these home games right now? And if that's the case, the Florida Panthers are about to come in and wipe the ice with us, right?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of excuses. We'll talk about the negative in a minute, but the positives this season and just the way that the team, I think, has come together. The injuries, yes, notwithstanding, they've played well together when they are a together unit. And we've seen the very best, and then we've seen the not so good with this team. And when we take a look at some of the bad losses, and I know that you went through the entire schedule as well. Now they have, well, I mean, they really do need to feast on home ice because now they still have 5 in a row remaining here at home. But the bad losses, I had that 5-1 loss at Vancouver that occurred earlier this season. When they came home after winning those 9 straight, Chris, they lost to St. Louis 3-2, and that game kind of punked them here on home ice.
That was definitely a rough one and a very unfortunate game. It's unfortunate for a lot of reasons. One, we all felt it was coming. Like we all knew first game back from the road trip, big road trip, 9-game winning streak, and here come the Blues, who, at that time were absolutely doing nothing, and they're not doing much more than anything now. But at the time, they definitely weren't doing a whole lot. And credit Binnington, we were at that game, obviously, and Binnington did have a remarkable game after a bit of a slow start. But I still remember like watching that game when the first VGK is on the penalty kill. They get a breakaway. I think it was Stevenson, and he makes a good attempt. Binnington saves it. And then like 4 players from the Blues collapse on the puck in the corner. And I think he found Riley Smith coming right down the slot. And Smith got a wrist shot. Like, okay, good start to this game, right? Everything seems to be working out okay. And the Blues just kind of hung out, and the VGK couldn't get back in it. And then you kind of look what happens after that, right? They're off on that Monday and Tuesday. Sharks come in 5-2, beat them. And then the next game was that Arizona game where we did win 4-1. But that's when I was kind of like, hey, something isn't necessarily adding up here. They have a home game against Ottawa the 23rd the next week. They win 4-1, but that game was even kind of in the balance just for a minute or two. And then, if I'm not sure if we're crossing the streams here, but then we have the home back-to-back home games, Friday the 25th of November and the 26th, Seattle, Vancouver. Lose 4-2 against Seattle and lose 5-1 against Vancouver. And I'll save most of that for our coach segment because I feel like those 2 games gave us a little bit of a definition of the bad side of Cassidy. And it's not that Cassidy is a bad coach. I'm not saying that, but all coaches will have areas of opportunity, if you will, that will be identified throughout a season. And there were some concerning things that stood out to me for those couple of games about Coach Cassidy.
Okay, you have to agree the most valuable person, schedule maker in the first half. I mean, Edmonton's going to
depends who you ask. If you ask any player in the Golden Knights, they're going to tell you no.
Well, you should be stacking wins at home, and that's on them. But everything's been so favorable, and Edmonton will come in playing 3 games in 4 days and a back-to-back again on a tail end coming here.
0 for 6 on the power play or something last night. The Edmonton Oilers were. Oh my god.
Yeah. That Kings team. Yeah, they're just playing over their heads. It's not.
I cannot agree more with that. Credit the Kings, but they are playing over their heads.
Come on,
100%. Credit them for doing well.
But
they are playing over
their excuses. This is such an excuse-laden organization. The bad ice, the injuries. Don't complain to Colorado, and then of course. They have it so easy on these back-to-backs. And again, they have the back-to-back coming up where they go. It's a 19-mile distance between where the Devils are located and where they're going to be playing the Islanders. Okay. So it's just short, quick bus trips, no flights. Boston even got job this past week where they had to play in LA. Then they go up the coast to play San Jose. And then the next night they have to fly back to Anaheim rather than just taking the bus. But that's another story. But they should be benefiting from this schedule a lot more. They should be taking advantage of the schedule. But the worst losses, I thought, the shootout loss to LA and then the Ducks the next night. You couple those two because, again, and I just remember Alec Martinez just whining and saying, yeah, we have to deal with the schedule that's handed to us coming out of the break. This is going to be a tough one. I mean, you're right down the road and you don't have to change time zones. I'm sorry, but I know that I harp on this too much, Chris, but they should be taking advantage of this schedule.
These are professional athletes that are in the best shape of their, life for the most part. I mean, some injuries and things like that. And, crossing time zones and stuff, there's certainly a little bit of weight behind that. And there have been some games where they don't get that time to adjust where other teams might. But as a whole, I don't necessarily buy that as an excuse, and it's not the right time definitely to make a comment about, yeah, we got a, we had a 45-minute flight going through private terminals and then a 15-minute bus ride, and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Tony. I don't think time and place. Listen, if you just if you just came out of the Christmas break, you can't travel that Monday because you're still froze, even though the Toronto Maple Leafs did do that and received a $500,000 fine for violating whatever it was, CBA or something, whatever they violated. But they did it anyway, fully knowing that they were violating something. If they had to travel to New York and like land in New York at noon local time and play a 7 o'clock game, okay, fine. I'll certainly give a little bit more to that one. But yeah, you're going to Anaheim and then you're jumping on the bus to LA or the other way around or whatever the heck it was, and that's a tough road trip. I mean, if you get 3 out of 4 points on that road trip, fine. We're not going to complain about that. If they had beaten the Kings like they should have, and then something weird happens against the Ducks, fine, whatever, so be it. Things like that are going to happen, but that's one of those road trips where you need 3 out of 4 points, and you can point back to the 5-game home, or the 5-game road winning streak all over the place. You can point back to some games they've won where they should have lost, but that doesn't matter. You do have to stack these points. You do have to stack these wins, because right now, this moment, it seems like health is, getting better. Rumblings about Theodore possibly coming back sooner than later, as well as Miramonov. Nothing concrete yet from what I've seen, but it could happen as soon as Thursdays from what some people have been reporting out there. So the team is getting back to health. Things are hopefully it's going to be a great January, I hope. But then there's going to be more injuries. Something's going to happen, just the nature of the beast. And how can the team adjust? And there is some depth now, right, Tony? There is some depth. We've seen it on the defense. Ben Hutton got scratched for Korzak and Pahal, so we definitely got depth on defense, right?
Yeah, definitely. And 27, 13, and 2 at this juncture of the season, much better than we anticipated. And I think we're both in agreement. If VGK had a better home record than on the road, fans would not be concerned. But again, not defending the home ice. And you and I both had a 4-2-1 prediction for this home stand. They're off to 1.
Right on pace.
Right on pace. Coming up next, we're going to be taking a look at the players. We'll have our assessment through the first half of this season when we return right here on Locked On Golden Knights. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting information for your stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league that is out there. From pro football to college and pro basketball to the NHL, we have it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We are always the fastest, the easiest way to get your betting information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn a lot more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome back from Las Vegas, Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. And please remember, our YouTube channel is available. And we'd like for you to subscribe there. And Chris, a lot of chatter yesterday. I think a lot of the fans wanted to see our mugs on YouTube. Yeah?
Yeah, I saw someone mentioning we need to, everyone needs to see these and we need more comments and things like that. And yeah, I'm with you on that. I wish our YouTube could get a little more love right now. And it has a lot of love. Don't get me wrong. We look at where we started, a few short months ago, which was actually April, and really the visual pods, if you will, started sometime in like early June or something like that. So it's getting better. It's getting better. Really quick shout out. I was doing my thing, selling my cards last night. And on the app I sell on, you see a little avatar picture pop up next to the person. Whenever I see anything Vegas or Golden Knights related, I jump on, say hello, and try and start a conversation. And it was either, I forgot the name, I wrote it down, I can't find it. You saw me like moving around here trying to find it somewhere. But it was either Squibby or Squiddy. I forgot what it was, but a nice black and white VGK logo. So point being is that person watches the show all the time, and actually found me on Whatnot to watch, my little show last night, selling cards and things like that. So we had some pleasant interactions. So definitely made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. People watching the show and then finding me in my personal business life and all that, and shooting the breeze. And maybe we'll have a new client, right? A new client. But
are you going to be covering the game coming up on Thursday against Florida?
I
Will
don't
you
know.
be in
That's
the
my
stands?
that's my birthday. I'm trying to weigh that right now. So
All
I don't
right,
know.
the
I don't
birthday
know.
show, another milestone coming up here.
42. The overhit, folks. The overhit.
Players that made the biggest impact in the first half of this season. Some solid players. I want to begin with three players of note, just because they've played in every game, and they've also obviously been productive. Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone, Riley Smith on the offensive end of the ice. Stevenson, I did make a prediction over the summer, Chris. I said there's no way this guy's going to have a better season than he did a year ago. And lo and behold, he's got 40 points already at the midway point. Stone, despite that offseason surgery, he's labored at times on the ice. You and I are like, it looks like he's on his last leg, and he just keeps getting that
He's
second,
a
third,
Stone.
fourth
Stone
win.
is the warrior this year. Stone is.
Right.
They're all warriors, but Stone is the warrior this year.
He definitely is. 17 goals, 38 points. And Riley Smith, 29 points and 18 goals.
Yeah, I mean, everyone you mentioned, Tony, they are noticeable. They are doing things, especially someone like Riley Smith and Mark Stone, who are tasked with playing a lot more defense and things like that. Speaking of defense, Jack Eichel getting all this time on the PK. We were on with DiBiase, Ted DiBiase. I always call him Ted DiBiase, but the gentleman who hosts Locked On Buffalo Sabres, and he mentioned Eichel got some PK time up in Buffalo, but not a whole lot. And
Not a lot.
he's getting a fair amount here, and he does a good job. Like, no one thought of Jack Eichel as a defensive player, right? No one. And he's got a good stick. He's got an active stick, a lot like Stone in the fact that he's going to, be ran your tail as you're doing your breakout pass, pestering you, trying to create that turnover. And he does create turnovers along the boards that lead to some rushes and things like that. Or on the offensive side, finding that open ice, going back to the Pittsburgh game, when I think it was Riley Smith who chipped it up the boards to him, and he just started the scoring that game a couple minutes in. And when I asked him about the infamous softball celebration, just going a little bit deeper here, Mike Amadio, we can't go too far without talking about Mike Amadio's contributions right now. Only 6 goals and 5 assists on the stat side, but most of those are coming when he was up on that top line and things like that.
What's
so
his
if
new
you were
nickname? His new nickname.
Super Amadio.
No, Amadio Light.
Amadio Light. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Tony. I walked into that one. Shame on me for that one. Paul Cotter been noticeable when he's had the opportunity on that top line, and curious where things are going to shake out there. Kind of back. We'll hit more of that in the third segment. Nick Hague. I don't know. Nick Hague. Yeah, that's a fair assessment right there, right? That's a fair assessment right there. William Karlsson. I mean, I know you're going to jump on me here, but he does have 7 goals and he's got 21 assists though. 21 assists. I mean, that's not he's basically on pace for somewhere in the high 50, mid 50s as far as points goes. If he can go on a run, that can get into the 60s, or if he hibernates, that'll be in the upper 30s. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Phil Kessel, we dog him a lot, but he's sitting on 7 goals and 10 assists in a spot where he can't get a defined role. It's tough to utilize him properly because our top 6 is crowded right now. When he does get time with the top 6, he does play it. He does have a noticeable game, a much more noticeable game. And I think when he's in the bottom 6, which is really line 3, he's never going to be on line 4. But when he's in line 3, I think he's trying to play a much more careful defensive type game. And then the opportunities will come when they're there. But he does have a good touch around the net. He is scoring some goals. And I still hold out hope that Kessel was brought in to get through the regular season, and we're going to see another year in the playoffs. Obviously, that's we won't have a sample size for about another 4 months or so for that. Marchessault had a real hot start for a while, right? Goals in a number of games, nice little streak going. He's sitting on 28 points right now.
In 36 games.
Exactly. But you and I have both alluded to this. I don't think, and I don't have anything besides a hunch to jump in on this, and I don't think anyone does, based on just some small things we've heard from Cassidy and some things we've seen. I don't think something is fully clicking between Marchessault and Cassidy. And I'm not saying he's in the doghouse. I'm not going to go that far. But if there's one player that doesn't, like William Karlsson and Pete DeBoer didn't click, right? I don't know if Marchessault and Cassidy are fully clicking yet. But Marchessault, unlike Karlsson, I will jump on the Tony train here. at least Marchessault does have 28 points, and he's on pace for a nice little number. He'll probably get into the 60s, health pending, obviously. Pietrangelo has been an absolute gem, right? I mean, 29 assists, 24 assists already. And obviously, he did miss a number of games. Family is doing better from all accounts, so that's a good thing. And now he's back on the ice. And Pietrangelo is going to be our leader as long as he can hold out. They might have to get an IV drip going for all the minutes he's chewing up. But, oh, my God. And, again, Mark Stone, can't say enough about him, right? There are games where we're like, why is he on the ice? And then you asked me a couple times, Tony, right? I'm at the games. You send me a text. Hey, how does Stone look? My answer usually is he's skating confidently. He is skating like early in the season, right? You could see him being careful and just there was a couple
like he was
even
broken
games.
Down at one point.
Yeah, no, there were a few times like that. And then I think it was like one of the next games after you and I maybe talked about this on a show. And like you're watching him make these moves at the blue line because most players know Mark Stone is not the type of player who's going to come at you one-on-one and try and make a move. But he has this thing he does when he gets inside the blue line. A lot of players, when they get inside the blue line, like Phil Kessel, he's notorious for this. He skates his butt off, hits the brakes, looks for a pass down the slot or, to dump it in the corner. Stone does the same exact thing. But what Stone does that Kessel doesn't, Stone will try and make a move and put it right between your legs and create an opportunity from just inside the blue line, whether it's another move he's going to make or a pass or a shot. But Stone is showing some confidence to try and make some one-on-one moves right now, which is something that we don't see a lot of from him.
I wanted to go back to those three players that I started with, right? Special teams contributions, right? You look at Stevenson, 5 power play goals and 7 assists on the power play. That's
huge,
incredible, right? That's big. Smith, 6 power play goals and 4 shorthanded goals, which still is astounding. And he's had at least 3-4 more chances.
Him and William Karlsson got to be one of the best PK lines in all of hockey, if not the best.
Yeah. And then, I put, I had in the disappointment category, I did have Kessel because I just thought he could do a lot more.
That's fair.
He went from the first to the third line. I don't know what his role is, but the one thing that you and I have both talked about on this show is that Kessel just appears to sometimes just be, okay, I got to keep this Iron Man, streak intact. And other nights he asserts himself like he did against the Pittsburgh Penguins, where he got out to that early jump. So I don't know. I mean, he's a veteran, probably on his last skate, whatever. But I don't know what his role is going to be moving forward. Another disappointment to me, Nick Hague, you mentioned him. He has not done much. In my estimation, Alec Martinez, yes, he's done a great job in getting in front of pucks and getting injured and blocking shots, but no goals so far. He's definitely lost a step defensively, had a turnover again the other night. And then, surprises, Paul Cotter. Paul Cotter, we haven't mentioned him. And then Will Carrier.
Oh, God. How do we go this long without crediting Will Carrier?
Okay, well, because we have all sorts of notes here. So in any event, Carrier, he's stuck now on 10 goals, 7 games without a goal. So did he just want to surpass?
He is stuck on 10 games. He's stuck on 10 goals. How awesome is Will Carrier's life right now?
Did he just want to have one more goal than last year? Now he's done for the season?
Going a bit deeper with Will Carrier, now that you mentioned that, and this is something that I would like to tee up next time I work a game, depending on what Will Carrier's influence on the outcome is. You have, what he did last year, right? And wasn't much. He's already at his career high goals right now at 10, but he's not just doing that. He is getting some power play time every now and then. It's on the tail end, last 30 seconds usually, but he is getting some power play time and he is getting his butt in front of the net and trying to make something happen. And more importantly, I see this line that Cassidy goes to when the VGK is winning a close game late. Karlsson, Waugh, Carrier in the last 60 seconds of games. So Carrier wears a number of hats for this team. And because, yes, he is stuck on 10 goals, it doesn't mean he's not doing a whole lot of other wonderful things. Miramonov, we definitely put him in the plus category for his contributions and just watching him blossom in front of our eyes, right? I mean, you kind of saw some hints last year, and you can see what he did in the AHL level as far as his stats and the way he can score and run a power play and work the offensive side of the blue line. And he's getting better on the defensive side. Cassidy always makes it a point to say, hey, he's got the shot, he's got the skill. We just got to teach him how to play a little better defense. And, so I'm real curious how long Miramonov can stick in this lineup once everyone is healthy outside of White Cloud. I mean, I think Miramonov has earned that sixth defensive man role. And then defensive man. Oh, shout out to my old good friend Mitch Dietz, who always called him the defensive man. The defenseman. Miramonov definitely is in that sixth role. And then Ben Hutton seems like he's dropped to about 14th on the depth chart by the way Cassie's been using him the last couple of games.
Yeah, Hutton played in just 13 games, I think I saw somewhere. And then Brett Howden. Okay, we don't know where he's at. We haven't really heard anything about him. Theodore Whitecloud, of course, out with injuries. Let's get into goaltending here in just the next few minutes, and then we'll get into the coaching assessments after the break. But LT, 18, 10, and 1, 2 shutouts. He's appeared in 29 games so far. And then Aiden Hill, 15 games. So it is a 2-for-1 formula that they're going with here with Aiden Hill and, of course, LT. And so Logan Thompson, again, with a good record, great start, all-star now. And then Hill.
Starting all-star.
And then Hill has contributed really well, too. I think it's a surprise, and that he's 9-3-1, even though he's had some really shaky outings.
No, the record definitely. I'm pulling up Brossois' stats as well, because obviously that's something that we're going to have to hit on now. We're talking about goalies here. But talking about the goalies and what's happening, starting with Aiden Hill, right? I mean, the record is good. People are kind of dogging him a little bit. When we have as well, when he gets pulled and things like that. But you look at the record and things are working. It's not always the prettiest when Aiden is out there, but it doesn't need to be. And if you have any questions about that, watch Phoenix Copley for the Los Angeles Kings, who's now, I think, 10-2, 11-2, 11-3, whatever it is, depending if he played recently or not. And he's as journeyman gets, right? He's been bouncing around the NHL since like 11-12 or something like that. And he's having the best run of his life right now. So give him credit for what he is accomplishing right now. And back to Logan Thompson, it's going to be a ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride at times because he is still a young rookie, a young man. Sound like I'm all old and stuff here, but he is still a young rookie learning how to deal with the day-to-day stuff of this game. And it's definitely not going to be an easy thing to do. And he's the all-star. He is the Pacific Division starting goaltender. If you would have told me at the start of the season, Tony, that VGK was going to have the starting goalie for the Pacific in the all-star game, I would have had the popcorn out and fired a What the Friday at you for that one. All right, Brossois, here we go. 244 goals against, 6-8 record. I don't care about that. But a 915 save percentage. He's putting up NHL numbers right now. He is putting up NHL quality numbers. And again, it's AHL players, fine, I get that. But still, as far as the goaltender job is, sure, there's some big differences at the AHL level, but he's putting up the numbers that are worthy of him getting to the NHL, whether it's with the VGK or with another team. We're going to find out. But I still say in the next less than a week away, I think we're going to see Brossois on the VGK ice, and they're going to have to make a decision.
Coming up next, our assessment of the VGK coaches through the first half of the season. Stay with us on Locked On Golden Knights. Our next partner has a product that we use literally every day. We started talking about Athletic Greens because myself and Chris, we're always on the move. We don't have time to take in a full meal. Sometimes he drinks his meals as well with Athletic Greens and other beverages. We've been talking about this for a few months here. Yeah, he got slimed before, this guy. I don't know. He came out looking like an alien. He had this green film on his screen today, just like Athletic Greens. That's green as well, of course. And it's so good. It has 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole sourced superfoods, and so much more. And again, it is really good. It's a lifestyle friendly sort of a brand. You need to try it out, and it costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. And there are a ton of testimonies, and they also donate to organizations like No Kid Hungry here in the U.S. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Let's get into coaching and our assessment. Of course, Bruce Cassidy, first season here with VGK, first of 3, first of 2.5. Cassidy changed this system, brought in a new style. He's been very transparent, I feel, with the media. He walks us through a lot of the things and his rationale for making changes. We feel too many line changes, perhaps, at this time of the season. Not afraid to call out players, as we saw. Him and Marcia saw, there's something definitely up with those two. He benched him earlier this season. But after everything, some adversity, trials and tribulations, injuries, bad ice, and the such, this is still a team that is in first place.
Yeah, I mean, hit the nail on the head with everything that you said, and we can second guess him. We can have concerns about the things he did. We can mention his 2.5-year clock, and that's not a shot in Cassidy by any means. It was very subtle the way he did that, but it was nice. Just the reality, 2.5 years, we have a new coach in Vegas, and that's not a unique thing for Vegas either. But back to Cassidy, there's this 2-game window as far as the negative side, and there's plenty of positive. But going to the negative first, because that's just what we do as a society. I go back to the November 25th and 26th games, Seattle and Vancouver. The Seattle game, right? Seattle comes out, quick lead on us, very, very quick lead, and it's not looking good for the VGK coming back on, a quick turnaround from a nice 4-1 win against the Ottawa Senators. Marchessault gets benched for the whole first, along with a couple, or almost the entire first, along with a couple other players. Wonder if they're injured, what's going on. The Lions were put in not even a blender. It was worse. It was a blender on top of the San Andreas fault. It was like just crazy what was happening that game. And VGK gets back in the game, right? They get the game to level. They tie the game level. There you go, Tony. They get the game level. They tie it up. And then they go back to the other lines thinking, okay, we're going to get this back right now. And the lines are going to click. Well, they don't click, and Vegas loses that game 4-2. Okay, fine, whatever. That's going to happen. The very next nights, they put up a horrid effort against the Vancouver Canucks. Again, fine, it happens. But there were no mix-ups of the lines whatsoever. And if there's one game I wish I would have worked, and I could have asked him and said, hey, what did you see out of your lines tonight that made you stick with them, knowing that last night you got a spark when you made lines? Like, I would have been real curious to see what that answer would have been. So that's the one spot that concerns me. But now early in the season, Paul Cotter comes out for Amadio. Cotter has a jump and does really well. Other way around, Cotter comes out, Amadio comes in, Amadio gets a spark. So I thought he's done a good job managing the lineup as far as like Amadio and Cotter goes. But recently, shuffling Amadio down after 4 or 5 shifts because he was light on some pucks. Let me talk to the kid and tell him, hey, work harder, do something. And then we don't know what happens behind the bench. We don't know. But listen, favorable results. The team is in first. We do love everything about Cassidy. There are some concerns, though. And how big will these concerns get if things don't go that well?
And see, in Boston, they got tired of his voice. And I could see where players could kind of wear on you, the way that he approaches things, and he's always on the players and all of that. The big stinker was against the Kings the other night. We'll see how they respond, coming out of this 4-day break and all of that. But again, they reverted back to some old poor habits of just taking shots from the perimeter. And they didn't have very many of them last year under Pete DeBoer. At least they'd get like 40 shots on net.
In the first period.
They'd all be from the perimeter. This was only a 20 shot on goal game. So that's of a concern.
It was a terrible game. Terrible game.
And I went back and I was looking up some stories, Chris, from the preseason camp, because I was trying to dig into why he makes these line changes. And he said in camp, I'm not going to be afraid to experiment with lines. And
I do remember that.
Different changes. Remember? And he broke up the misfit line.
It was right around the misfits comments. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's continued, though. I didn't expect this to happen this late in the season. And when he has all of these veterans and he has a full roster back, I don't think he could toy around with the lineup, or should toy around with the lineup, because you want that consistency. Before we forget, let's talk about the impact of John Stevens. Power play improved. Before that clunker the other night against the Kings, they were, I think, in their last 4 or 5 games at a 50% clip. So they play pretty well on the power play, shorthanded. We see what they're doing. I think there's an improvement in special teams. And then Sean Burke has done a more than adequate job with the goaltenders.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sean Burke is where I'll focus my points on. And again, Logan Thompson, if you would have told at the start of the season, asterisk was goaltending. We thought we had the depth. We thought we had a solid roster to possibly make a run. Possibly, I'll say it like that because of the goaltender asterisk. We have the starting goaltender in the Pacific. We have a quality backup. We have a third goalie at our disposal on our tool belt should something happen to LT or Aiden Hill. Listen, Brossoit and Aiden Hill doesn't make me all warm and fuzzy inside, but if that's the hand that we're dealt, I think the team can possibly get by for a while and manage, assuming LT doesn't suffer any level of like a season-ending injury or anything like that. So credit Burke for taking our biggest concern and making it a much larger strength against many teams in the NHL.
But also, you have to credit what they've done defensively in saving the goalies at times because they have gotten back on defense.
And with all the injuries on the defense too.
Right. And the defense is predicated in the Bruce Cassidy system. Helping out the goalie is what the defense does best in his system. So that's something I think we have to point out as well. You know, I was looking at, I'm sure that Cassidy looks through the box scores and compares where Boston's at and VGK.
They're way up there. They're way up there.
Well, yeah, they're the best team by far. Every time I've watched them, but goaltending, they've done a great job there. And now Jim Montgomery obviously has carried on what Cassidy started. But I saw Linus Ullmark the other day, 22-1-1. That's his record right now.
That's it.
He's 20. Yeah, 22-1-1. I mean, so they've done a good job, and so hopefully that rubs off here. Both Ullmark and who was it?
Swayman, Jeremy Swayman.
Swayman.
One last point I want to make, and then I'll cut it back to you to get us out of here. Identity. Is it easy to, and we don't got to discuss this now, but if someone asks you what the VGK identity is, can you define it? I can't.
Well, that's a good topic for tomorrow's show. This is how we plan stuff, folks. We're really good at doing this. Yeah. Let's do that. What's their identity? Because
I can't define it. I cannot.
You had a concern that they didn't have one at the start of the season.
They still don't, in my opinion.
All right, tease them. Don't give it all away, and don't go back to the green slime screen. For my man Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. We appreciate you all tuning in. Thanks for making us your first listen. Back again tomorrow.
I didn't do anything. That just happened.
Locked On Golden Knights. What is going on here?
That just happened. I have no idea.
We got slimed.
I got slimed. Oh my goodness.